Church was supreme in its truth and holiness, triumphant, the one path to salvation. All other Christian denominations, all other faiths were wrong. The Jews had hard hearts. The Protestants were culpably ignorant. Muslims were bloodthirsty infidels. We were reminded daily of the special status of our priesthood in prospect, a profound transformation that would descend on us with the oils of ordination. Yet despite the long hours in prayer, the beautiful liturgical round, the friendship in community, I felt increasingly imprisoned and rebellious. To relieve my misery, I would escape in secrecy to the cinema down in the city, hiding my Roman collar with a scarf. I made little progress in the spiritual life. I was not becoming a better person. I had doubts, starting with the real presence in the Eucharist and ending with the entire story of original sin and redemption. I slipped away one morning without farewells and without regrets. I was convinced that I would not look back. At university, basking in unfamiliar freedoms, I became an agnostic. Yet in G.K. Chesterton's novel The Innocence of Father Brown, the hero priest speaks of the unseen hook and an invisible line, long enough to let one wander to the ends of the world, and still to bring one back with a twitch upon the thread. It took 20 years to feel that twitch. The faith of my wife and children was a factor. Their Catholic Christianity bore witness to something deeply missing in my life. I began to explore the power of Christian community and imagination rather than logical proofs and apologetic arguments. Christianity was what you did rather than a set of ideas in your head. There was no return to the church of certitudes, ultimate truths, and righteousness. The journey was slow, with bouts of skepticism and irritation. I went to Mass on Christmas Day to hear the choir sing "Happy Birthday, Dear Jesus" at the consecration. Where was the solemnity of the ancient liturgy? I had yet to catch up with the significance of the Second Vatican Council, its benefits and its difficulties. Meanwhile, I was a journalist on a national newspaper. On assignment in Rome, I was invited by a chance meeting with a Vatican official to investigate how the smiling Pope, John Paul I, met his death after barely a month in 1978. Was he poisoned by prelates in the Vatican, as the late David Yallop claimed in his world bestseller, In God's Name? I interviewed Yallop's chief homicide suspect, Archbishop Marcinkus, head of the Vatican Bank, the papal doctor and embalmers, and many others within the Vatican. I met with John Paul II, who blessed my investigation. Yallop's accusations were based entirely on circumstantial evidence that proved to be flimsy or inaccurate. My subsequent book, A Thief in the Night, concluded that the Pope died of a neglected embolism. Without intending it, I became something of a champion of the Church, although the editor of one Catholic paper wrote to express disappointment that Marcinkus was, after all, no murderer. I next tackled the life of Eugenio Pacelli, the man who became Pius XII, the wartime Pope. The Pope of my boyhood, his austere face stared down from so many cloisters and classrooms. I set out to refute claims that he was a Nazi sympathizer, but I discovered a circumstance that seemed to me even worse in its consequences, fully justifying the book's title, Hitler's Pope. In 1933, as Cardinal Secretary of State, Pacelli, the future Pius XII, negotiated a treaty with Hitler that, despite good intentions, demoralized a Catholic opposition in Germany and gave Hitler credit in the eyes of the world. The issue was neither his holiness nor his intentions, but his devastating diplomacy. I was accused of the sin of calumny, of smearing a saint. The book perhaps contributed to the delaying of his imminent beatification. I appeared to have fulfilled the role of devil's advocate, which John Paul II abolished to expedite hordes of new saints. Hitler's Pope also prompted a stream of articles and books more rigorously academic than the hagiographies to date. I next wrote a portrait of John Paul II. Impressive Pope that he was, John Paul was reluctant to believe that priests had extensively